Welcome to you all. Many thanks for being with us today. Alejandro Feijes is speaking. I'm the ICC Community Manager. I welcome you to this new edition of ICC webinars. Today ending a series of 5 or 6 webinars we did about intercultural coaching. Today we are sharing with Nick Cheong this presentation about how you can improve your intercultural competency for intercultural coaching. So this will be the ending chapter of this series of webinar we have today. And in case you didn't had the chance to watch the previous sessions, if you go to the ICC website, you will find the recordings of all the previous ones. So anyway, I will be sending you the links so you can watch the webinars. Just a few words about Nick. Nick is ICC trainer in Brazil, and he has a broad experience in diversity and culture management. He worked in several countries like Germany, Brazil, Singapore, China, and currently, as you see on screen, he is part of Berners Consulting, a company dedicated to that. So he's going to tell you a little bit more about himself in a second. And again, many thanks for being with us today. We start now the webinar with Nick. Nick, be welcome today to this webinar. Many thanks for being with us today.
Hi Alejandro. Hi everyone. I'm glad to see everyone today, and thank you for coming back. And I see many familiar names again. And I see Virginia calling from Colombia, and Andrea from Portugal. Well, so this time round, we're going to do a little bit different from what we had done before. So what I would require you to do now is just do a quick test to click on the raise your hand button, okay? So the raise your hand button is on the side on your panel. So if you can, raise your hand, let me see. And that if you have a question, what I'll do is now do a quick test about this webinar. How many of you actually here are available with a microphone that you can speak to me or can speak to the group if necessary, or if you have questions, we can pass you the microphone and let you speak to the group. Maybe we could do a quick test by just a raise of hands. So the hand button is on your left panel. That's by a little button here with like a hand. So if you do see that, click on there and just show me. Good. Andrea, Dominica, Beth, Roberto, Oscar, Virginia. Okay, so again, this is a test. Who is available to speak directly? If you have a mic with you available and that you are available and that you're willing to speak, just put your hands up, okay? So I see Benjamin. I think Benjamin from Hong Kong. Okay. Gilbert. Okay. Yeah, this is a bit difficult with managing this. I'm just trying this for the first time as well because, you'll see in a while, today's framework of presenting will be slightly different, and that if you have been following the series, welcome back, and that it will be a bit of a refreshment of what we have done, but now this time round as the concluding segment of the whole series of webinar based focusing on intercultural competency and intercultural coaching. This will be the final round, and that I'll be using it'll be more hands-on, so to speak, practically, and that I would like to invite everyone, if possible, when to be more interactive. So let's get started then. Yes, and why are we here? Well, I hope this session will help you to understand a little bit more about how intercultural issues affects intercultural coaching session, and that to be more concrete this time, based on some of the feedbacks I have since the last few rounds, well, focusing more on practical and using some of the information that we have already talked about since the last few sessions, and to imagine ourselves in a real session of intercultural coaching. And that's the way to do it, is really to have more role play, to more case studies, and that to participate. And well, just a little bit about myself. I'm born in Singapore. In fact, right now I am in Singapore. So if you are from Asia as well, I empathize about the weird timing now. It's 3 a.m. in Singapore, and normally I do this in Sao Paulo. That's about 5 p.m. or 4 p.m. in Sao Paulo. So today I'm back home on my home leave. So if you are calling from Asia, I thank you as well because you are now spending the 3 a.m. hour with me. And I started my career in Asia. I'm born in Singapore, and I've lived in Hong Kong right after I graduated, just to have a trainee with Hong Kong Shanghai Bank for a short time, and that later on I worked for a Japanese company and a German company, and then they sent me to Germany, and I spent working 5 years in Germany, living in Germany, before I left for Brazil, which I am still living there permanently, and now I just crossed my 5th year living and working in Brazil as well. So I specialize in intercultural and diversity issues, mainly for dealing with expatriate coaching, project management as well, and I have certification in various cultural training modules by COI and IDI. I speak Mandarin, Cantonese, English, German, and Portuguese. So currently, I'm doing a postgraduate degree in psychodrama, as well as preparing for a doctorate degree, in cross-cultural psychology. So that's a little bit about myself. So today's agenda will be very much focusing on case and getting you to participate with me in the rest of the hour about using some of the tools and some of the, if you have been following the series, some of the tools and some of the theories, and put them in place, and we will discuss that in retrospect. How do we apply some of this stuff we talked about today? So, and very quickly now, tell me about yourself, right? Benjamin is mentioned that you are also you are engaging in a doctorate degree right now. So, and so Benjamin from Hong Kong. So can you just drop me a quick line to tell me where you are from, so that I have some reference point who you are, and that when we do interact, so that I have a bit of an idea where you are from. Okay. Right. Next slide. So if you are in Asia, or probably in London as well, there has been some issues involving this gentleman here. I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with this person here. Right. So keep your chat lines going. Just tell me one liner where you are from, and that I have a quick reference of where you're coming from. So like Carolina, Monica, G. Taylor, Amara, Andrea, Klaus, Dominica, Enisto, So these are some of the less familiar names that I've called. So coming back to here, this gentleman here, Olivier Disperes. Well, he is 37 years old. He's a senior executive working in Singapore, and that apparently, based on the reports, he had moved into a new apartment where in Singapore and married with a new baby, and moved into this new place that he's living for the last 2 years now. He used to be a currency strategist with Credit Suisse, and he's he used to be the head of Barclays foreign exchange strategy in Asia. And he appeared in many high-profile business reports on TV as well. So as you can see, some of the pictures here taken off from slides from the program's screenshots of Bloomberg. So he's quite a high-profile banker or trader in that aspect in foreign trading, and that he's always been asked of his opinion about the foreign exchange, and apparently he is successful what he's doing. And what made him famous, or rather infamous recently, was rather sad incident that happened, and that he is believed to be French. So he moved this to the apartment about 2 years ago. Neighbors always has been complaining and alleged that he had uttered vulgarities. He would swear at his neighbors and threaten neighbors, and several neighbors have claimed that they have made police report about this behaviors, that he threatened to hurt his neighbors. And there is a construction going on next to where he is living, and that well, construction sites, you can expect, make a lot of noise. And in Asia, we really work round the clock, and sometimes in residential district, well, if you live next to a construction site, then too bad for you, because then you would expect a lot of noise. And that compared to in Europe, there are very strict working hours about when you can start working and when you should stop working, and the kind of noise pollution that you are creating and how you control that. So in this case now, in Singapore, the law states that construction you can start as early as 8 a.m. in the morning, apparently until Saturday as well. So he was being reported to have, well, complained about the hours, and he went over to the construction site making a complaint that it's way too noisy for him, and that he wants to start at 9 o'clock instead of 8 o'clock. But one day, the construction started at 8:45. And what happened was Mr. Disperes, he went out and lost his cool. And as what the Straits Times, the local newspaper, said, he lost his cool and his job. Well, in this case, what actually happened was that on this fateful day where he lost his temper, he was caught on video, as well as he was caught on video swearing and throwing sharp objects at the workers. And after the video was taken and somebody uploaded up in a local website, well, it's a photojournalism website where citizens of Singapore would share things out like improper behaviors, and they would report this in this website. So this is some of the well, if you are interested, the video is still available online, and that they created a lot of discussion about behavior expatriates and what what could have happened here that made him behave in such a way. Apparently, he over the other sides, you know that the other sides, you know that he is well-established executives. He obviously is a professional and know what he's talking about, but in his private life, in this case, he lost his cool, and quoted as far as in UK, the Times, after the video went on live, this is what the Times, the newspaper, in local newspaper, they did not mention about this particular, the dialogues or the swearing in such details. But if you go to the YouTube and all the videos on this issue, you could hear all in stereo about in exactly all, in no less words, all these swearings that you see on this page. So how and what do you think could have happened here in this situation? He obviously is well educated, a professional in his own accord, you know. What could have happened that made him do that? So I welcome your feedback on this, and that I unfortunately have clicked the wrong button. I'm not able to see your hands up anymore, Alejandro. So I will have to ask for Alejandro's help. Alejandro, if because I accidentally closed the buttons on the hands up, then people would raise their hands. So I would seek your help if somebody raised their hands to just let me know by sending a message or just give me a sign.
Okay, Nick. Also, you can go to the view menu and enable the attendee list again. So this will help.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for that tip. Okay. Right. So, well, if you want to share with what with us, you know, I see two hands up in the system, G. Taylor and Benjamin. So, if well, maybe we could have one at a time. Benjamin. Just one thing. I had another feedback is that the last few rounds is that I have people continue to send me the chats, and there was an instance where I'm not able to read one particular participant, and that obviously he or she had entered many chats, but I was not able to see any of his he or her replies. So if that happens to you too, I apologize for that. I'll try to read everyone's response, but if I miss your response, my apologies. So so Benjamin, I see your hands is still up. So if you are available to speak and you want to participate, raise your hand as well now. Okay. So Alejandro, so if you could arrange for Benjamin to be on the air.
Well, actually, Benjamin get down his hand. I think he wrote after, before that he is not able to speak. Yes, to hear.
Okay.
So
okay, all right, right. So I have on the screen G. Taylor's. The hand is still up. I'm not sure it's he or she. So well, so just if I see your hand
try.
still up, yeah.
Hello, G. I'm not sure if it's George or what's your name exactly. Do you hear us? Could you talk? G. Taylor.
Well, okay.
No.
Doesn't work so well. Well, anyway, so we could still stick to our Q&A using our the chatting. So I've opened up on my screen to see a bigger Q&A right now. So yeah, Live Beth Frost tells me that could have given a little more notice. Yeah, I do agree with you that something new that I'm doing for the first time, that I get someone to speak to me directly here, that's through some of the feedback I had the last few rounds. Well, we can still work on with what we used to work. That's key into the just type through the chat. So tell me about what do you think happened here in this situation here. So if this company, if Barclay has asked for an involvement from an intercultural coach like yourself, what do you think happened here in this situation? This expatriate here, obviously, there is he crossed the line of his social life and his professional life, and that his social life becomes in spotlight. And what could have happened here if we were, I mean, obviously we are not able to get insights talking to Olivia directly, but based on some of the facts that we do know in this situation, that he is well established in what he's doing. He is believed to be French. He moved into this premises about 2 years ago, married with a newborn baby, and that some of and obviously what accumulated to this behavior was not something that he happened to do one time, but it's like over a long period of time, and that there are other instances that other people have also complained about or mentioned and feedback to him personally about, you know, that he is probably a little bit too abusive with his languages, and that he lost his temper more than a few times. And what do you think would have had happened in this case? Right. So key in your reply. Okay, Lisbeth mentioned lack of cultural understanding, and Andrea mentioned that he's probably on stress, work, a new country, and yeah, and they mentioned as well, he's probably not happy with himself. Klaus Goran mentioned that he's overstressed with his work, and that and they also mentioned he probably didn't respect the Singapore people. And let me see who else have quoted me something. Yeah, so we see people that are not authentic with their lives. This is Andrea. Yes, in this case, I would say for this gentleman here, it's very unfortunate, because probably in Europe, where he is from, the relatively the split between public life and his personal life is very clear. But in Asia, sometimes, culturally speaking, when we switch our role between our professional and private life, sometimes the lines are not so clearly drawn, and that if we have to respect, if you're coming from a different culture, that whereby, like myself, where if I'm Asian and stepping into the corporate world, sometimes if people get uncomfortable in Europe to talk about a little bit, they don't want to know about your private life, because it's very clear cut. It's like 9 to 5. I'm here to do what I'm what I'm good at doing, and after which I leave, and that there's no interaction between the dance between your personal life and your social life, your professional life and your social life in Europe is very clear cut, and in Asia sometimes it's not always so clear, and that people would judge you from what you do personally and professionally at the same time. So this is something, I guess, where we step into culturally, whereby it's individualistic compared to a culture that is more collective in nature. So this is some of the areas sometimes we have to ask ourselves, conformity or individualistic, and that sometimes in this case here in Singapore, where the values are more on being conform, on harmony, and these issues are very strong, these values are very strong basically in all Asia, and that that's one of the reasons why sometimes stepping in and out between professional life and social, your own personal life, has this area on being mindful of conformity, being mindful that it's not so individualistic as a culture that you used to come from. And probably I would also imagine that he might be going through some intercultural shock. Well, you might say, well, he's been there for 2 years. You know, isn't it that the intercultural shock would have been when he first come in? Well, yes, because yes and no, because the intercultural shock comes not intercultural shock, but rather simply put, culture shock affect one's psyche in settling in, and that one might think that culture shock only affects the first year or the first period where after the honeymoon period, getting to know the country. No, culture shock is always there, and it will get stronger each time when a foreigner is in distress, and that it is where you are, each time you are tested in a new situation, the feeling of being frustrated sometimes get heightened, because you over and over again you get faced with situations that frustrates you, even though that is nothing new to you, but at a certain point of time or some day that is on a bad day, you might just lose your cool. And it's very important when your client, who obviously is a global trotter, and that he traveled very widely, and I talked to a lot of diplomats and people who work from the embassies. And people who work in a lot of global management, project management teams. They think they have seen it all with working with different culture people, various people with various cultures. But each time the experience is new, we have to respect that each culture that you come in contact will be new. And yeah, your experience with other cultures is important, but what is even more important is your own self-development as a client about the effects of interculture, all this experience that you picked up while working in contact with different cultures, what it does to you and how you adapt each time to a new situation, to a new culture that is more important. And that the little facts that we know about this situation, that he has a newborn baby. So probably that makes him a little bit more agey, and that you can imagine his wife, I'm not sure where his wife is from, but I could only imagine that if she's also a foreigner, the kind of stress that she might be going through, and that kind of stress would pass on to the husband, that led him to be so easily agitated. And that if intercultural coach is brought in, and that would have been very clear for the coach, that the kind of stress points that he's going through is not just from his working life, but from his personal life, and that this is something that he probably is not so mindful of. And in an intercultural coaching session, that's very easy for would have been very beneficial for such a senior executive to understand the situation he's going through, and probably just move out from the area for the sake of his own mental health as well as for his family. I'm just wondering if there's any problem in the system, because I have not been receiving any chats, or my last chat was well, it's been minutes ago, so I'm quite kind of worried if there's a problem. Oh, okay, it's back now. That's right, I clicked the wrong button. I didn't see all the replies coming back from. Okay, Benjamin mentioned it's purely individual issue, not that much to do with culture shock. It's not a good excuse. Yes, I agree with you as well. This when we look at a personality makeup, and there are people who are more prone to culture shock, more prone to frustrations, and more prone to agitations, and this characteristic and personality has effect. And obviously he has some track record of his bad temper, and given his job nature in foreign exchange and in trading, in banking, that's high stress. Yeah. And Nina mentioned that I agree with you, because I moved and at first I didn't have any problem, but they came when I became a mother and needed to live like a family according to my own beliefs and so on. Thank you for sharing that with us, Nina. Yes, and I think one thing very important that I would like to share with all of you is that the success of an expatriate while working overseas, studies over and over again have shown that the success of an expatriate overseas, not just because of him or the working environment for himself, most of the time, more than 50% of the time, the success of an expatriate is dependent on the spouse. So if the spouse is not happy, the expatriate cannot be happy, and that will lead to stress, and it will show up in all sorts of avenues, be it personal or be it professional. And there again, G. Taylor mentioned, shouldn't he have prepared himself for the culture? Well, that is a good question. The question is for him then, what are the things that he needs to prepare himself? So as a coach, what would you have prepared for him? Yeah. Well, I don't expect we could have a deeper discussion, because we do not have the client in the call as well, and exactly what's going through in his mind. We are not sure what went through in his mind, and like Lina mentioned also in her chat with me, is a lack of tolerance. Yeah. So with the choice of words that he used here, obviously he's going through a bad time, and moving forward. And this case shows us a few things. If you have been brought in as an intercultural coach, some of the things and issues and skills that it's very evident that you need before you step into the room to talk with the client in intercultural coaching. First and foremost, it's your own personal development as a coach, your coaching skills, your ethics as a coach, the trust. Foreign language skills, well, in this case, if you know that he's a French-speaking expatriate, and that if you have a background in speaking the language, that would be excellent, because sometimes if he can't explain himself in English that well, he can switch between the language that he's more comfortable with, and that you can switch with him. Yeah, and the knowledge on intercultural competency, on cultural competency about all the intercultural communication frameworks will help to explain some of the behaviors that the client is going through, like mainly the whole concept about culture shock itself, that explaining in terms of what he's going through is nothing new, and it's normal, and what he can do about it. Yeah, and overseas experience when working in foreigners, would be another plus, because then you would definitely appear to be more credible. And of course, one of the skills, empathy and listening skills, come from your own personal experience and your own self-development as a coach, and working overseas and working with foreigners really would be a great plus in terms of conducting a session with this executive there. And moving forward from here, I would like to share with you another case here that I have done for myself. This is a personal case for me, because I've done a coaching session with this executive, and that is just from my own personal experience. I'm sharing with you some of the sessions later on as well, some of the slides that you'll see. Another case, this lady, Birgit, obviously not her new name, just she's German, and that she works for a German company, and that she has requested to work for an overseas, to go for an overseas posting to enrich her personal and professional life. And happens that she get along very well with a Brazilian counterpart, and during a meeting she brought this up, and that, well, the Brazilian colleague after the meeting invited her to work in Brazil for 2 years. Well, she accepted it and was extremely happy and excited about the posting. Well, previously she had not worked in any South America countries, and she has been assigned in other parts of Europe. She speaks fluent Spanish, and that she expects that her command of the Spanish language will be a great help to her. And a case in point is that this is her first overseas posting, and she looks forward to going to Brazil. Yeah, and if the company requested for an intercultural coach to prepare Birgit. If you are the intercultural coach engaged for this assignment, what would you do to help her to prepare? Or what would you prepare? So what are the questions that you would ask Birgit? So again, let me see if my lines are open, so to speak. And if you have a microphone with you, and that you are willing to share your point with me, put up your hands, and that we could give it a shot again to see we could use a more interactive form today, and not just typing. That would be quite boring. Yeah. So again, I would go to attendance view. No, attendance list. Right. Well, I don't see Andrea. Andrea, would you like to speak? So I will pass you the microphone. Alejandro.
Yes, Nick, I'm opening now the Andrea's microphone. Andrea, welcome. Do you hear us?
I hear you, but I don't know if you hear me.
We hear you very well. Yes, perfectly. Welcome.
You hear? Yes, hello.
Perfect. We hear you perfectly.
You want me to say what I would ask to Birgit?
Yes.
Birgit.
Yeah,
yes?
Birgit, yeah.
We say Birgit.
Birgit.
I don't know, maybe I would like to ask if she felt happy with this opportunity, and if she knows about cultural Brazilian culture.
Good point. Yes.
If she wants to know more things about Brazilian people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do you think about her expectations in terms of her Spanish language would be a great help for her?
I don't know, but I think the Spanish is not a good language for Brazilian people. I don't know, maybe. It's what I think. I don't know if that skill should be a good thing for her. I don't know. I think she is with high expectation about that.
Yes. Yeah, looking for, seeking her her input for her expectation would be a good start, and that questioning her and challenging her and questioning her about her belief that her competent skill set in Spanish would be helpful at all, because a quick Google on Brazil, you would know that in Brazil they speak Portuguese and not Spanish. And I had many people who tells me that, well, I came here, I was shocked because I thought, first of all, I thought my Spanish skills would be very handy. But, well, in Brazil, it's the only country in South America that don't speak Spanish. They speak Portuguese. And is it useful to pick up the language? Yes. But do you think that it's a one-to-one exchange? No. Because it is, after all, two very different languages. So it helps you to integrate a little bit faster than someone who doesn't know the language. So probably this is one point that one can challenge and one can share, and let Birgit be aware that this is really something important. Just don't go there and think that she's fine. No, it is not fine yet, but it's something for her to be psychologically prepared. What would be some of the questions that you will ask Birgit, Andrea?
Other questions?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe what she expects in Brazilian, or what she expects to live in Brazilian, or what is the good things about this opportunity, and to be conscious about that. And if she wants to learn Portuguese, she wants. You want to learn Portuguese, Birgit?
Yeah.
Maybe it should be a good thing to think about.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that with us, Andrea.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I see that Sarah has also raised her hand. Sarah, if you are willing to pop in here and share with us some of your points as well. And for the rest of us who is listening on, keep your lines chatting, keep your chatting on, because I do see your questions, I do see your reply, and in between I will read as much as possible. I'll read all your replies so that I can share your point of view and your perspective with everyone in the webinar. So Sarah, if you are willing to speak with us to the group directly now, please raise your hand so that we can pass you the microphone. So I see that your hands are down, or anyone as well who wants to. Okay, if not, I'll just go ahead and do what I used to do, which is just read off from the chat lines here.
Sorry, Nick. Sarah, your microphone is open. Do you hear us?
Yeah. Yep.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Nick. How have you been?
Good. So,
did you read what I wrote?
Yeah, I'm still scrolling down to the list of stuff. So, since you have the mic, so tell us what you think about the situation.
It is very important concerning the misunderstanding about Spanish and Portuguese. You know already, I've been working with expatriates for 35 years. And when it comes to Latin languages, as Portuguese and Spanish have the same origin, but they don't have the same vocabulary, and there are lots of false cousins and a lot of different idiomatic expressions, then people misunderstand, and this is very dangerous when it comes to different cultures. You know, it's not only about the language, it's about the mind. What kind of language code comes within the language, and how people contact and how people relate to each other, and how the language comes into this relationship, and how it helps or not the relationship. Then it's very important to know well the language, and then to know how, in this culture, people relate. How they you know, when I first went to, I lived many years in Europe. I am originally from Rio, and I'm back to Rio now, after 32 years abroad.
Yes.
And I lived many, many years in Europe, where I was teaching at the university. I was teaching psychotherapy in Brussels, at the University of Brussels. And I remember first when I went there, I was, although my knowing the thing and working with expatriates for many years, I couldn't avoid touching the people when I was speaking, because I'm from Rio. I touch people when I speak.
Right.
It was something very strong. People react physically to me. They even once I had someone, I was teaching at the university, and I touched a student, and he simply threw me out, you know, with the hands, go out from here, don't touch me. And in the hospital, I was supervising a hospital, and my colleagues were all doctors and all colleagues. They used to say, attention, Sarah, n'approche pas. Pay attention, Sarah, don't come very close. And then it was, this is very important to know the language and how people relate, and how people contact, and how people look at each other, you know. This is the first point, not to have people closing the door to you, but to have people opening the door to you.
Thank you, Sarah. That's been a very that's been a very insightful. Well, from your point of view, especially that you are from Rio and that you work in Europe, and telling us from your perspective and from your personal experience as well, some of these points here. And for the rest of us, what I did sum up from Sarah's experience here is that, see, the language is important, but as well as the how you decipher one interpret from the vocabulary, and also some of the behaviors is different. And that in Klaus mentioned, Klaus Goren, he has sent me a chat to say probably it's good to ask Sarah, to ask Birgit about what the company is expecting her to deliver, and also probably what is her personal expectations as well. And that some of these issues about personal space, what Sarah had mentioned about touching, this is in intercultural communications, interculturalism. We talked about all these frameworks. It says about power distance, and earlier on in the case of Olivia, it's about
your voice.
So Sarah, thank you for participating.
You are welcome. You are welcome, dear.
And coming back from the example earlier on Olivia, the banker, the case about personal life and public life, and these two things are being a collective, or a culture that is predominantly collective, and another culture who is very individualistic. It's about me. It's about me. I don't really care about the rest. It's about me. My family comes first. I come first. And that when I'm not happy, I will raise my opinion, and sometimes in a more harsh manner, and that people who's not used to that and can find it, and in this case, it is offensive. Yeah, not that some people find it offensive. It is offensive, and that he needs to find a way to tone it down. And for Birgit, in this case, I still see a lot of people writing me back about this situation about Birgit, is the expectation and about her personal behavior. What Sarah mentioned is this thing about touching, and that is very real. And sometimes you find it's funny when you hear someone talk about it. It's only when you experience it yourself. Somebody coming from a personal space, a big personal space, coming to another culture with this very small personal space, touching in a culture that is very small personal space is very common. And people coming from a larger personal space, like from the States, they talk in an arm's length. And in Europe, the space between one another is somewhat smaller, but then they don't go close enough to touch each other. Whereas in the Latin culture in the South America, touching is a form of getting to know each other better, and that is a form of friendship. And that this is something in interculturalism as well, for the client to understand that you be prepared for this. Yeah. So Taylor mentioned that Olivia didn't understand the principle of being, doing, and speaking exactly. And Virginia mentioned that it's important that expatriates are clear that who they are, adapt to new country, its culture, not the national people of the new country to the expatriate have arrived. This concept helped me a lot to live and adapt easily in child countries. How interesting. Yeah. And okay, Benjamin also mentioned that there is a differences in Spanish and Spanish, yeah. And Michelle mentioned about newborn babies, an element of great stress, and the noise doesn't help. Yes. So coming back to this case in point about Birgit. So getting her to understand some of these key elements before she go on an assignment, that's very important. The language issue, the culture, the main cultural differences. Well, she claims that she works with get along with the Brazilian counterpart. She would have noticed that it's speaking Portuguese, but it would be a fallacy to think that Spanish and Portuguese is interchangeable. It is not. Yeah. And let's see what happens after this. So, and before I go in very further, I just want to share with you some of the concepts that we have talked about the last few rounds, and that's the cultural dimensions here. So, like what Sarah has shared with us on the language issues, and Andrea has also talked about the language itself and the expectations. And we look at the cultural dimensions here. These 10 elements of cultural dimensions. All these aspects here of cultural dimension would be applicable for Birgit here. Why? Because it affects in all areas of one's work, and it helps to interpret the situation, reflect on the action, and become better. And in this case, communication, the language, the habits, the business practice, the thinking and learning process, the sense of space here, that would be radically different from where Birgit is from, Germany. And what you see here for all the dimensions, I think this slide has been overused, a little bit overused, but nevertheless very effective in understanding that some of our behavior that we see is like a tip of an iceberg. What runs beneath it is the way the emotional and the rational thinking that we don't see. And that this is something always to remember. What you see from the outside is only what you see, but there are a lot of things below that level. And there is a tool that I'd like to share with you as well, I call IDI, that helps to measure the sensibility of one's intercultural, or being intercultural, the level of interculturally competent, and to be ability to accurately understand and adapt behavior based on different cultural differences and similarities. And the aim of this tool, IDI, is actually to move from a monoculture thinking to an intercultural mindset. And some of this, which I went in detail in one of the sessions, I will not go through too deeply, just to show you this slide, that the idea is that you go through this, from this model, we see that somebody who is monocultural in mindset will be in denial, and towards intercultural mindsets, you become more accepting, and that to a final stage, which is the aim of intercultural training and intercultural coaching, is to adapt to the host country while adapting in an authentic manner. Yeah. So, and this is another slide again. And what I think is more important here is what happened 1 year later. Okay. And this actually, as I said, I'm sharing a case that really happened, and that 1 year later, Birgit calls up, and then you're called in again as an intercultural coach, and this is what she says to you. After working there for 3 months, I got very well with my colleagues, and I decided to throw a birthday party, and I invited everyone to my home. Many people said they would come, and even during the day, people tell me that they might come, they would love to come. But who actually turned up? Only one person turned up. Birgit was totally devastated because she prepared for food for 25 people. Everything was well organized, and that if you she prepared food thinking that people who told her would come will come, so that for her was 25 people. But in reality, one person turned up. So she felt totally devastated, and that she felt that her efforts were wasted, and that brought in other judgments as well from her belief, from her values in her culture. People are not trustworthy, and then she started making judgment about, oh my gosh, these people is like, you know, they said they will come and they didn't turn up. What's this? They don't like me. Like, and all this about her belief structure, her value structure in her own cultural background starts to interact with the reality she's going through right now. And this is, in this case, all the things that we don't see happening in her mind. And then she also said, the colleague who invited me for the posting, she became my boss, and oh, she became so difficult to talk to. I can't talk to her anymore. And when I asked questions during meeting while other colleagues from Germany were there as well, I noticed that my boss, a once good colleague, become offended, and that she stopped giving me information of important things happening. So if my colleagues stop giving me information, how am I supposed to work? And now that I'm back in Germany, they tell me that my posting has been shortened, and that the last person that I want to hear it from is my ex-boss, my boss in Germany, and that my boss, who I work with every day in Brazil, she didn't tell me that. I have to hear it from my ex-boss. So obviously she is upset, and she was literally in tears when talking to you as an intercultural coach again. So coming back to this situation now, what do you think has happened now after 1 year passed? And this, just from these 2 instances that Birgit had mentioned, as an intercultural coach, what would you have done? What would be the questions that you would have asked her to probe a little bit further and challenge her at the same time, not too much, for her to understand what's going on and help her to learn from this experience? So due to time constraint, we might not be able to take the call, but please write in your replies, and I'll share it with everyone by just reading through your chats. So Okay, so I have replies coming in. Michelle mentioned about need to be patient, accept another way of doing things in Brazil. Oh, this probably relates to the earlier part. So yeah, and Lisbeth mentioned about I would ask Birgit about her observations in other contexts, trying to reframe her present experience. Excellent. And Lisbeth, what would be a powerful questions to ask Birgit in this instance to help her to reframe her present experience? And Taylor mentioned about perhaps her enthusiasm about her experience overlooked the dynamic of Brazilian culture. Good point. What would be in the coaching skill set that we talked about earlier on? I want everyone to think about not to overanalyze the situation now, but think of one powerful question to help Birgit. Could it be maybe to help her to reframe from the situation? Maybe that will help her to make this into a learning experience, into a learning opportunity. What would be a good, powerful question for you as the coach to ask Birgit? Right, Tyler mentioned about how would Birgit reframe her experience, right? Don't think in terms of the situation. Think in terms of questions. Apply your coaching skills in terms of come up with a question as if that you would ask Birgit directly, like me as Birgit right now, and face to face with her. What would you have asked her? Right. I have two replies coming exactly at the same time. How interesting. Dominica, sorry, I pronounced your name incorrectly. Dominica and Benjamin wrote exactly about the same thing. What have you learned from this experience? What have you learned from this comment or this posting? And what do you learn about yourself in this case? Yeah. And Carolina mentioned, what do you think you could have done differently to improve the situation? And as well, what did you learn from this? Very good, powerful questions that Dominica, Benjamin, and Carolina has shared with us. So keep those questions coming in. Keep them coming. Michelle mentioned about what could have done to avoid your boss' negative reactions. What could have done to avoid your boss' negative reaction? But assuming that without further input, that we are taking it just from the face value, what she's saying, probably a good idea is, tell me more. What happened there? What happened in the meetings exactly? And what makes you think that she felt offended? What were the reactions? And ask her to reflect on those instances or that instant where there must be one point of time where she would remember that after saying something or after a certain period of time that her boss stopped sharing information altogether, and that we need to let her see the situation as it is right now and what it could have been, and that it's good to ask the client to to evaluate the situation by asking a simple question. Tell me more. Michelle said that he has to leave. Okay. Thanks for joining us. Yes, and the time is now 10 past the hour, and that we would like to close very soon. And just by reading off some of the questions that keep coming through, Andrea mentioned, what happened in that meeting? Do you felt the offended situation with your boss, that you felt that you offended your boss? What could you have done right to change the situation? Taylor mentioned, were your experience focused on past experience, present, or future? Virginia mentioned, what are the important things for you behind this opportunity? Which are the values behind this? Lisbeth mentioned, how would you like to handle this situation? Where and or who are your resources? Good. Put point there, pointing for other resources. What do you think that made her boss react this way? Reflection question. And Michelle left, and Andrea mentioned it. When did you feel things weren't okay? Yes, a question to direct her to reflect about what had happened, and that from there on to open the door for more things coming forward. And it's 10 past the hour, and it's very much, I think everyone's input has been very useful, and for those of you who have been listening on without any replies, I do hope that the sharing from everyone have helped. Taylor mentioned, do you have a personal agenda? Yeah. Well, we have to be careful sometimes when we ask the question, the timing as well, that this form as the build up with your rapport with your clients, the timing of all these are very good questions that you're providing me. The timing is have to be, you have to build the confidence with her, and then the rapport, and then coming with building up before you jump into a way too powerful question, but the timing is wrong. It can still affect your coaching relationship with the client. So I'm now past 10 past the hour, and there is not enough time for other case, but I think what was important here is that we managed to go through two very real situations, and your input has been an enormous resource for us, all of us here attending this session. What I want to share with you is that this is the concluding session of one of the 6 webinars over intercultural coaching. Next year, I'll be conducting a distance learning course on intercultural coaching, and it will be a lot more from what you have seen so far over the sessions. So if you are keen to find out more, stay tuned on the ICC platform, and that if you like to be in contact with me, please drop me an email, and that I'll and what is my email? That will be a very good question. Is, well, maybe at some point in time I did flash my email address. I'm just trying to pull that back up. I did not. Well, okay, but yeah, if you go to the ICC website and you look for trainers, you'll find me, and you can send me questions whatsoever. And Benjamin said that you'll be visiting Singapore in December. Wow, welcome! And that I'm just here actually for a quick stay, and I'll be leaving on Sunday back to Sao Paulo. Yeah, if not, we could have met for coffee. That would be really nice. And yeah, I thank you for participating in today's last segment of this intercultural coaching, and that as I said, next year we'll have a next segment more on distance learning, where on each of the topics that we talked about, I'll go deeper, and then we'll explore with a lot more real examples and case points. So let me see now. So we have still some chat coming through. Let me just read them through. Oh, the link. Well, Amira mentioned about the link. Yes, there will be, Alejandro will be sending the link about the recording for this webinar. So, and Dominic mentioned about thanking me for the session. Thank you as well. Well, before I let you go, just as my tradition, I'll ask one last question, and that is, in one word or in a couple of sentences, tell me how this session or webinar has been for you. Okay. Lisbeth mentioned the best so far, thank you. Carolina mentioned very insightful. Oscar mentioned about, let me see, more depth. For example, building knowledge. I think you meant knowledge, that no less. Yes. Well, we didn't have time to really go through in each of the knowledge in terms of some of the building blocks that I went through the last few rounds. But look out for the subsequent distance learning as well as webinars that I will have more time and to structure on some of the fundamental building blocks for intercultural communications, because this is a big, huge topic between interculturalism, intercultural communication, and coaching. These are two very big blocks already. So respecting the time I have, so we're trying to make the best out of it. So yeah, so if you can, everyone, just drop me one line to say how this session has been for you. Okay, so thank you so much for your time, and that I pass the ball back to Alejandro.
Many thanks, Nick, for sharing with us this series of webinars that I'm sure allows us to move outside the usual box of thinking and coaching. So many thanks for bringing this interesting topic. Many thanks for all who were with us today and who shared the whole series. And I'm sure we are going, as Nick said, to have the opportunity to get connected again next year with many more webinars and distance learning courses about this and other topics. So this is all by now. Just only to ask you to answer the short survey that appears after you close the webinar. It will pop up a screen. So if you can take just a minute, it will help us to improve this page. So many thanks if you can take a few seconds, a minute to answer that. So Nick, thanks again, and thanks to everyone.
Thank you.